Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be turning this lovely piece of Paduak that I've got on the lathe at the moment. Now the blank measures about 30 centimetres wide and it's probably about 4 or 5 centimetres thick, so we should be able to get a decent bowl out of it. Now it has been again about 2 to 3 months since I turned a proper bowl, so we're just going to hope that it all goes well, especially with a piece of this size. Let's get going. The first thing to do on this project was to rough the blank out to round. Now I used my bowl gouge to do this and just took my time. I had the dust extraction hooked up as Paduak is quite a toxic wood and the dust isn't great to breathe in, so I wanted to minimise it as much as I could. Now the grooves you see there were made using a 3-point tool, or sometimes called a V-point tool. Now once I'd done that, I then flipped the bowl over, using hot glue to attach it to the faceplate. Now as always, I did have to rough it out again because I'm not perfect at gluing it onto the faceplate, so there will be a little bit where it's not perfectly round, so I glue it on, rough shape it again so it's nice and round, and then I can move on to the inside. I did also use the spindle gouge just for a tiny bit of the corner just to get a really nice sharp finish. Now go careful using something like this as obviously it's not designed for faceplate work. I then moved on to roughing out the interior, again using a bowl gouge, just taking nice passes to remove as much material. Now I just want to jump in and say one thing here. When using a round scraper on something like this, you do need to go extremely careful because obviously with a bowl gouge it's designed to be able to take that aggressive nature of turning, whereas the round scraper doesn't have as much metal behind it, so sometimes it will want to sort of grab into the piece, so you do need to go really careful doing that. Now I've used the round scraper for a lot of my turning and I really like using them, but just go carefully if you do decide to follow the same actions in this video. Now when turning a bolt, it's always a good idea to leave the centre till last, so that the mass is concentrated at the centre where it's turning. Otherwise you're just going to create a lot of vibration and it'll be very difficult to turn if you start with the inside. Now on the inside part here, or the centre, whatever you want to call it, I just used the bowl gouge just to scrape away all of that material until I was left with a nice clean surface on the bottom. So we've now finished turning the bolt, and as you can see it's nicely turned out. However, there were a couple of difficulties with turning it. So firstly, the bowl wasn't completely round when I put it on the lathe. That's just because I didn't cut it particularly accurately on the bandsaw. So it did take a bit of time to get it to the rough shape. And then once I started turning the inside, it was still quite difficult just to get the material to be removed. But I got there in the end. I did use the round scraper in combination with the bowl gouge, and as you can see, I've now got a nice hollowed surface. So we're now going to move on to sanding the inside, and obviously the outside as well. Now, as I had a fairly clean surface already from sanding, I started at 120 grit. I then worked up my way through 240 grit, 320 and then 400. Now you'll see in this video, I like to use water when sanding the bowls. It just provides a really smooth finish and it's much better for when you apply a finish as well. It just really is a good idea because it reduces the dust, and then secondly, as I said, you'll get a much smoother finish. After I'd finished with 400 grit, I then moved on to using Chestnut Products micro mesh pads. And I have no idea what grit these are, but I always use them and they give a really nice shiny finish. Okay, so what I've done now is I've sanded the bowl, and as you can see we've got a pretty nice finish on here. This is just sanded up to whatever this is, I think it's about 1500 grit. So we're now going to apply some cellulose sanding sealer and then Woodturner's blend. Now when I'm turning small bowls, I always end up using a can of cellulose sanding sealer. But with a bowl of this size, I thought I'd try the spray and see if that was any better, and I think on this project it worked a lot better. I then used Woodturner's blend, applying it to both the outside and the inside, leaving it for about a minute, and then buffing it off using a clean piece of cloth. And here we have the finished bowl. I'm absolutely over the moon with how this turned out, as I said, it's been a few weeks or months even since I've been on the lathe, and I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Hopefully you can see got a pretty nice shine on it. I used Woodturner's blend, and you've got the sapwood coming through here, and then just a nice decoration on the bottom. So it's just small fruit bar. I think in the end it turned out about 26, 27 centimetres, because I did obviously have to rough it out and I lose a bit of material doing that. But I'm really, really happy with the overall result, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.